Far away in a galaxy full of stars, there was a moon called Xyrus 7. This moon was home to a proud and powerful alien race known as the Drenari. They were tall, strong, and their skin glowed in shades of blue and purple. The Drenari believed in honor, discipline, and tradition, and most of all, they believed that humans were dangerous monsters in human form, inside the Great Hall of Decisions. Silence filled the air, a red light blinked on the wall, and a message appeared in large letters, "Human chosen." The room full of Drenari generals and scholars became tense. No one moved, no one spoke. Jira, one of the youngest but fiercest warriors, stood among them. Her heart was racing. She already knew what was coming. The Council of Unity turned towards her, their glowing eyes full of judgment. "You have been selected," said the High Speaker. "You will travel to Earth. You will meet the human male, and you will form the bond." Jera's breath caught in her throat. The bond meant something more than just meeting. It meant a connection, a future, a possible mating. Her mind screamed, "Why me?" She stepped forward, trying to control her voice. "I am a soldier, not a bride," she said. "I trained for war, not for this." But no one cared. The council had spoken. It was final. Stories of humans had always been terrifying to Jera. The Drenari archives were filled with images and reports. Humans were wild, brutal, emotional, and full of chaos. They destroyed their own planet with pollution and war. They fought each other over land, ideas, even food. And when Drenari scouts visited Earth years ago, they barely made it back alive. The idea of mating with one? It was a nightmare, but this bond was part of a peace agreement between the two worlds. If Jera refused, it could mean conflict again, maybe even war. Alone in her chamber, Jera stared at her reflection. Her blue skin shimmered softly, her long braids tied back like a true warrior. But inside she felt weak, not from fear of battle, but from what she could not control, her fate. A small crystal ship waited for her on the launch deck. It was silent, smooth, and designed for long travel. Jera stepped into it, carrying nothing but her ceremonial blade, not for protection, but as a symbol of who she was. A Drenari warrior. As the ship lifted into space, she sat still, her hands cold. She replayed the stories in her mind. Humans with red faces shouting in anger, men with hairy arms and loud voices, eyes full of greed and rage. What kind of creature would be waiting for her on Earth? Would he try to hurt her? Would he see her as an alien or as a prize? She didn't know, and she hated not knowing. Days passed and finally, Earth came into view. A blue and green planet, full of water and clouds. It looked soft, innocent even. But Jera didn't believe it. She prepared herself, body stiff, emotions locked. The ship landed quietly on a private base in the mountains. Outside, human soldiers stood waiting, but she ignored them. Her focus was only on him. The chosen human male, the one she was supposed to bond with, the one the council trusted, the one she feared the most. The door of the ship opened and light rushed in. Jera stepped forward slowly, ready to face the monster, ready to fight if needed. But what she saw made her stop. There he was, standing still, hands behind his back. He looked calm. His face was clean, not red or angry. His eyes were soft, not wild, and he smiled. Jera froze. This was not what she expected. This was not the monster from the stories. He stepped forward and said, "Hello, Jera, I'm glad you came." And in that moment, something changed. Not trust, not yet, but the fear inside her. It paused, just for a second. Jera had faced many enemies in battle. She had fought beasts 3 times her size. She had trained in firestorms, survived ice deserts, and bled on distant moons. But nothing confused her more than the human male. Standing before her now, he was not wearing armor, not holding a weapon, not showing strength through power. Instead, he stood still, in a simple shirt, with calm eyes and a slow, honest smile. Her heart didn't race from fear now. It raced from not knowing what this human was thinking, not knowing why he looked kind. He stepped forward, keeping a respectful distance. "I'm called Ely Cade," he said. His voice was soft but strong, like wind before a storm. Jera didn't answer. She watched him closely, looking for signs of trickery, looking for the monster from the stories, but he wasn't looking at her like prey, not like an animal. He looked at her the way the Drenari looked at their sacred trees, with curiosity. And something else, something warmer. "I know you don't trust me," he said. "That's okay." "I wouldn't trust me either," Jera blinked. He was honest. Or pretending to be. She didn't like it, but she didn't hate it either. They walked together through the human base. The mountains outside were covered in snow. Quiet, white, and peaceful. Inside, the halls were warm and bright. Not cold like Drenari ships, not sharp and steel-like. There were plants on the walls, music. In the air, it felt soft, too soft. "This base was made for peace," Eli said, as if reading her mind. "No weapons. No soldiers, just us." Jera turned to him. "Why me?" She asked, "Why would your leaders choose me? A warrior. A fighter." Eli took a long breath. "Because you're strong," he said. "And because you still came." Jera looked away. She didn't come for peace. She came for duty. She came because saying no would mean dishonor. But Eli didn't push. He showed her the rooms. One for her, one for him, and a shared space with books, food, and quiet music. He didn't try to impress her. He didn't show off. He just existed. And that was new and strange and a little dangerous. That night, she sat by the window, looking at the stars, thinking of her home, thinking of what her people would say if they saw her sitting beside a human's fire. Suddenly, she heard footsteps. It was Eli, holding 2 warm drinks in glass cups. He handed one to her and sat on the floor, not too close, not too far. "This is called cocoa," he said. "It's sweet." She took a sip, warm, rich, strange, but good. "Why do you speak gently?" she asked. "I expected shouting or control." Eli looked into the fire. "Because I know fear," he said. "I've seen what anger does. I want to build something different. Silence, not cold, but thoughtful." Jera's mind was a storm of old stories, but her heart was hearing a new one. This was not the human she feared, not yet, not fully, but maybe. He was someone else. Maybe stories can be wrong. Maybe monsters wear smiles, or maybe, just maybe, truth wears them. 2. Jera was not used to smiling. Her world didn't need smiles. It needed warriors. It needed discipline. But today, for the first time in years, the edge of her lips almost moved. Not because of trust, not because of comfort, but because Eli Cade, the human male, had just burned his tongue on hot soup and pretended nothing happened. She watched him struggle silently, his face calm while steam rose from his mouth. He failed, of course, and finally whispered, "Too hot." Jera raised an eyebrow. "Then why do you keep drinking it?" Eli smiled. "Because it tastes better than my pride hurts." Jera didn't laugh, but something warm flickered inside her. It wasn't love. It wasn't peace. It was confusion. The human was unpredictable. On Drenari ships, meals were fuel. You ate in silence, standing. You didn't share stories or sit across from someone who might one day become your bond partner. Here, it was different. Eli talked about strange things like pets called dogs, who bark but are loved, or movies where humans pretend to be other humans, or ice cream, a frozen dessert that gives joy and brain pain at the same time. Jera listened, not because she cared, but because he cared, and that was strange. He asked about her training, her people, her favorite blade. He even asked about her childhood, something no Drenari ever did. Childhood was weakness, but he said, sometimes weakness shows where the strength began. The next morning, the real clash began. Jera rose early. As trained, she finished her combat drills in the cold mountain air before sunrise. She returned, sweaty, breathing hard, but the human? He was still sleeping, wrapped like a caterpillar in soft blankets. She stared at him through the glass wall. He looked peaceful, too peaceful. Did he not understand the risk of living near a warrior? She banged on the door. He woke up with a shout. Jera stepped back, blade in hand, instinct. Eli froze, eyes wide, then said, "Morning," and somehow smiled again. He brewed something dark in a small machine. The smell was strong, bitter, alive. "This is coffee," he said. "A human's first shield each morning." Jera refused at first, but after tasting it, she understood. It hit like a strike to the chest, but in a good way. Later they trained together. Jera showed him Drenari stances. Eli copied them badly but tried. He slipped twice, almost fell once, but he never gave up. When it was her turn to try human techniques, soft hand-to-hand combat, she hesitated. Too slow, too close. But Eli guided her without touching, just words. She learned fast. Their bodies moved in rhythm. Not lovers, not friends, but something. Building something new. That evening, they sat outside again, above them. The stars watched quietly. Below, the fire cracked softly. Jera finally asked, "Why are you not afraid of me?" Eli stared at the fire. "Because I don't believe in monsters without meeting them first." She tilted her head. "And what do you see now?" He turned to her. "I see someone learning to unlearn." Jera didn't answer. But for the first time, she didn't feel like a weapon. She felt seen. And in the distance, hidden in the night sky, a Drenari warship watched silently, uninvited, unannounced. The real test was coming in peace. Peace was not guaranteed. Asterisk. She smelled the danger before she saw it. It came like cold smoke in the wind, sharp, silent, familiar. Jera froze in place, her warrior senses flaring. This wasn't Earth's danger. This was Drenari. This was home. And that made it worse. Eli was sitting near the fire, reading a book called The Little Prince. He looked up when she stood, her eyes scanning the night sky. "Something wrong?" he asked. Jera didn't answer. Instead, she whispered, "They've come." High above the snowy mountains, hidden behind clouds and cloaking tech, a Drenari stealth ship hovered in silence. They were not here for peace. They were not here for watching. They were here for her. The Drenari High Council had sent watchers, trained assassins, hidden behind honor. Their mission: test Jera's loyalty. Test if she had been softened by human life. If she failed, the mission would end, and so would Eli. Jera's blood turned cold. She walked into the shared living room and opened a metal case. Inside was her Drenari blade, humming with soft light. Eli followed, confused. "What's going on?" She turned slowly. "You must stay inside tonight," she said. "You must not ask questions." But Eli stepped closer. "No," he said firmly. "If something's coming for you, I won't hide." Jera looked into his eyes. They weren't fearless. They were afraid, yes, but not for himself. For her. She didn't have time to argue. Outside, a loud hum vibrated the ground. A flash of blue cut through the clouds, and then they landed. 3 Drenari watchers, fully armored, stepped out of the shadows. They looked at her, their glowing eyes cold and empty. One of them spoke. "Jera, daughter of Threx, you are summoned." "I did not request audience," she replied sharply. "This is not Drenari land." The leader took a step forward. "You were sent to bond, not to become one of them. We see weakness behind her." Eli stood quietly, watching. He couldn't understand the Drenari tongue, but he knew a threat when he saw one. The second watcher lifted his weapon, a pulse lance, powerful enough to burn through steel. Eli moved instinctively, stepping closer to Jera, and the leader laughed. "So it's true," he said. "You protect him." Jera didn't blink. "He is my mission. He is your test," the leader said. "Kill him, and return with honor. Refuse, and be marked as lost." Silence, heavy, sharp, unbreathable. Jera's fingers tightened on her blade. Her eyes met Eli's. He didn't run. He didn't speak. He just stood there, with her. And that was her answer. Jera turned slowly. Placing herself between Eli and the Watchers, she drew her blade, and it lit with blue fire. "I choose my path," she said. "I choose the bond." The first strike came fast. Jera blocked it mid-air, sparks flying. The mountain echoed with the clash of Drenari steel. She fought not as a warrior of her people, but as a shield for something new. Eli watched from behind the glass, helpless but awed. The warrior he feared at first was now fighting to protect him. Minutes felt like hours. Snow turned red under their feet, but Jera did not fall. She roared like thunder and sent the last Watcher crashing into the trees. Unconscious, breathing hard, blood on her arm, she turned toward the stars. She knew what this meant. She was no longer welcome on her homeworld. She was no longer their warrior. But in Eli's eyes, she saw something different. Respect, gratitude, and maybe a beginning. It wasn't blood that marked her as different now. It was choice. Jera had made hers, and the stars would not forget it. The Drenari warship had vanished into the dark sky, but Jera knew they were watching still. She had crossed a line, not with weapons, but with loyalty. She had protected a human. She had chosen him, back inside the base. Eli wrapped her wounded arm with soft fabric. His hands were warm, slow, careful. Jera looked at him, confused by how something so gentle could still feel strong. "You shouldn't have done that," Eli whispered. "You shouldn't have fought for me." Jera looked away. "Then why did it feel right?" Outside, the snow kept falling. But inside, a storm was building, not of fear, but of truth. In the next room, the communication system blinked red. A message had arrived from Drenari High Command. Jera opened it, silently. "Jera, you are marked as rogue. You are to be retrieved and corrected. Human Eli code is now a threat to interstellar balance. He must be neutralized." She read the words again. Each one colder than the last. They had turned her into a traitor and Eli into a target. Eli stood behind her, reading the message too. He said nothing, but his fists clenched. "So they want me gone," he said quietly. Jera nodded. "They fear what they don't understand." He gave a dry laugh. "Then they're going to fear a lot more soon." That night, Jera began preparing the base. She activated energy shields, coded backdoor exits. Eli helped. Rewiring human tech with alien enhancements, she taught him in minutes. They were no longer strangers. They were survivors. Together, hours passed. And just before dawn, a silent alarm buzzed. "They're coming," Jera said. Blade already drawn, Eli picked up a stun blaster. One he wasn't trained to use, but held anyway. She looked at him. "You don't have to fight." He met her eyes. "I'm not fighting for Earth," he said. "I'm fighting for you." Jera didn't smile, but something deeper moved in her. Stronger than duty, stronger than blood, the attack came fast. Drenari drones dropped through the sky like shadows. Explosives cracked in the snow. Energy beams lit the sky with flashes of purple and blue. Jera moved like lightning, blocking, dodging, striking. Her body was a blur of power, but this time, she wasn't just protecting herself. She fought with purpose, with heart, with something new. Eli wasn't just hiding either. He used the base's systems, redirecting power, trapping drones. At one point, he even tackled a scout before it could. Fire. Not smart, not graceful, but brave, and brave was enough. Together, they pushed the attackers back, but the warship was still above them, waiting, watching, and then it sent one last message. A voice, ancient and cold, filled the air. "Jera, surrender now, or Earth burns." Jera stepped into the open, her voice clear. "Then burn it," she shouted. "I will not return. I choose the bond." The silence that followed was long and heavy then. The warship disappeared, vanished. From the sky without a shot, Eli stepped beside her. "Do you think they'll come back?" She looked at the stars. "Yes," she said, "but next time we'll be ready." And for the first time since she landed, Jera felt something she had never expected. Not fear, not confusion, but belonging. Not as a Drenari warrior, not as A mission, but as someone worth standing beside. Peace was never silent. Peace was not made with smiles or handshakes. It was made with choices, and the loudest ones often came without a single word. Jera stood at the edge of a cliff, snow beneath. Her boots, wind biting her face. The stars above her burned like watching eyes. Somewhere out there, her people prepared for war. Behind her, Ela paced inside the base. News had spread. The alliance was breaking. Other human leaders were panicking. Some demanded Jera's arrest. Some wanted Eli punished, but most were simply afraid. Afraid that love, or even loyalty, could shift the balance of power between two worlds. Jera was now a symbol, not just a soldier, not just a bondmate, but a question no one wanted to answer. What happens when the enemy chooses love over orders? A message came from Earth's Defense Council. Prepare to attend the summit. Drenari envoys are arriving. Speak only if requested. Jera didn't flinch, but she understood. This summit wouldn't be about peace. It would be about control. Eli read the message over her shoulder. They don't want a solution, he said. They want a story they can control. Jera nodded. Then we give them one they cannot ignore. 2 days later, they stood in Earth's central dome, a silver chamber that floated above the clouds. Inside were humans in suits and aliens. In robes, all staring, all judging. Jera walked in first, Eli beside her, not behind, not in front, but equal. The Drenari envoy was led by General Naxer, a cold-eyed war veteran who had trained her long ago. He didn't speak right away. He simply looked at her and then said, "You were our finest, and now you are their tool." Jera didn't react, but her voice, when it came, was sharp and steady. "No, General," she said. "I am no one's tool." The room fell quiet. Eli stepped forward, holding a simple object, a broken drone from the last attack. He placed it on the council table. "This is what almost killed me," he said. "Sent by the people who call us allies." Gasps, whispers, eyes shifting. The Drenari envoy spoke again. "You humans poison everything you touch. You are chaos in flesh." Jera stepped closer. "And yet I chose him," she said, "not because I forgot who I am, but because I remembered what peace was supposed to mean." A human council member whispered to another. "She could be lying," Jera heard. She turned toward them and said, "Then let your own people decide." She opened her communicator and activated a broadcast, live to both planets. Civilians, warriors, leaders, all watching now. She raised her voice. "I am Jera, warrior of the Drenari. I chose to protect a human. I chose to disobey orders to save a life. And if that is treason, then let every warrior ask themselves, what are we really fighting for?" Eli added quietly, "If love makes you weak, then maybe you've never felt it strong enough." The room stayed silent, but outside, across Earth and Drenari colonies, something had changed. Not orders, not borders, but hearts. General Naxer's face remained stone, but his voice cracked just slightly when he said, "You have made your stand, and now the galaxy will decide what peace is worth." Jera nodded. "I already have." Some wars end with silence, some end with fire, but the strongest ones? They end with a choice. Jera stood on Earth soil, not as a guest, not as a warrior, but as something new, not fully Drenari, not fully Earth's, but something between, something possible, something never imagined. The summit had ended 3 days ago. The vote was split across both worlds, but something strange happened after her broadcast. People started talking, not as soldiers or leaders, but as people. Drenari artists painted her face. Earth's children sent her letters. Some called her a traitor, but more called her a bridge. Jera didn't know how to be that. She only knew how to survive, how to protect. But Eli reminded her, sometimes bridges are built by those who once stood alone. Together, they moved into a new outpost, one built not by orders, but by volunteers from both species, engineers, scientists, peacekeepers. People who wanted this. The outpost had no weapons. Just labs, homes, gardens, and space to breathe. It floated between Earth and the Drenari homeworld. Neutral ground, new ground. Jira trained young warriors there. Not to fight, but to understand, to ask why before striking. Aile taught language, culture, stories, and every evening they sat beneath the stars, not as bondmates, not as ambassadors, but as two people who chose each other. Again and again, but peace was never easy. They still received threats, some from fearful humans, some from angry Drenari. One night, Jera found a coded message on her console, a single sentence, written in her home dialect: "He will never be one of us." She stared at the message for a long time, then deleted it, not out of fear, but out of choice, because she no longer needed approval. She had something stronger than fear. She had truth. A week later, a surprise visitor arrived, General Naxer. He walked slowly, his proud armor faded by time. He sat beside Jera in the garden, looked at Eli in the distance and said, "I still do not agree with you." Jera didn't look away. "I didn't come to make you agree," the old general nodded. "But I see what he makes you, and what you make of him, and maybe that's worth more than tradition." He stood and left without another word. But something soft lingered in the air, not approval, but acceptance. In time, more came. To visit the outpost, more bridges were built, between voices, between worlds, between hearts. Jera once feared humans. Now she trained with them, ate with them, laughed with them, not because they were perfect, but because they tried. Eli once thought he was just part of a political match. Now he knew he was part of something much greater. A new story, one written not with fire, but with hope. On the first anniversary of the outpost, Jera stood in front of the new recruits, young Drenari and humans sitting side by side. She raised her voice, not like a soldier, but like someone who had learned the cost of peace. "Your enemy is not each other," she said. "Your enemy is silence, fear, hate without reason. If you want a future, don't just fight for it, build it." And when she turned to Eli, he smiled, the same simple smile that once confused her. Now it was home. Not a mission, not a duty, just a choice. And she would make it again, every single day.